What if I tell you that the most dangerous rivalry in the world is not between the United States and China, nor between Russia and NATO, but between two neighbors who share a common history, culture, rivers, languages, and yet remain locked in perpetual strategic hostility. The two neighbors I am talking about here are India and Pakistan. India and Pakistan have fought four wars, experienced decades of proxy conflict, and have become nuclear powers. But today, they stand at a new strategic crossroads. And why? Let me tell you. It is due to the 2025 Pahalgam terror attack and Operation Sindhu. Yet, the real story is far deeper than the military clashes. It is a story of identity, geopolitics, nuclear deterrence, water diplomacy, and the competing visions of nationhood. Today, we move beyond newspaper headlines and explore this relationship through the lens of world's greatest strategic thinkers, international relations theories, and contemporary geopolitical realities. When I think about India and Pakistan, the first question that comes to my mind is, why does India-Pakistan relationship remain one of the most intractable conflicts? Political scientist Stephen P. Cohen famously described India and Pakistan as shooting for century. More than 75 years after partition, the conflict has transformed from conventional wars into an enduring contest involving terrorism, nuclear deterrence, diplomacy, cyber capabilities, and geoeconomics. According to Professor Sumit Ganguly, the rivalry cannot be understood merely through the Kashmir dispute. It represents a deeper ideological contest between India's secular constitutional nationalism and Pakistan's two nation theory. Thus, the conflict is simultaneously territorial, ideological, and strategic. Immediately after partition, the rivalry centered on territorial disputes, leading to the wars of 1947, 65, and 71. The 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War altered South Asian geopolitics, demonstrating India's conventional military superiority while exposing Pakistan's structural vulnerabilities. Unable to compete conventionally, Pakistan gradually shifted towards what scholar Aisha Jalal describes as an asymmetric security strategy. General Ziaul Haq institutionalized the doctrine of bleeding India through 1,000 cuts, relying upon proxy organizations instead of conventional military confrontation. The nuclear tests of 1998 dramatically changed the strategic environment. Most people assume nuclear weapons prevent war. Interestingly, strategic thinker S. Paul Kapoor argues the opposite. He brings the famous stability-instability paradox in India-Pakistan relations, explain that while nuclear weapons reduce the likelihood of full-scale conventional war, they simultaneously encourage proxy conflicts. Pakistan believed its nuclear umbrella insulated it from major Indian retaliation, while allowing cross-border terrorism to continue. Incidents like Kargil in 1999, Parliament attack 2001, Mumbai terror attacks 2008, Uri 2016, and Pulwama 2019 illustrate this dangerous dynamics. However, India gradually altered its strategic doctrine. How? Through surgical strikes, Palakot airstrikes, and later Operation Sindhu in 2025. India attempted to demonstrate that limited conventional military operations remain possible below the nuclear threshold. Analyst Rajesh Rajgopalan calls this as India's doctrine of surgical competence, using calibrated force to impose cause without triggering uncontrolled escalation. The Pahalgam terrorist attack in April 2025, which claimed the lives of innocent civilians, marked another tragic chapter in this rivalry. India resonated with Operation Sindhu, targeting terror infrastructure across the border through precision strikes. However, the most significant transformation is occurring not on battlefield but in river basins. The Indus Water Treaty of 1960, brokered by World Bank, survived wars, diplomatic crisis, and decades of hostility. It was once celebrated as one of the world's most successful examples of trans-boundary water cooperation. But today, that perception has changed. Uttam Kumar Sinha argues that water has become securitized. Following repeated terror attacks, India has increasingly linked treaty implementation with broader security concerns. Similarly, Brahmachelani argues that in the 21st century, rivers are no longer merely ecological resources, but they are strategic assets influencing national security and regional power politics. While we do talk about India-Pakistan relation, how can we forget another important factor, that is China? No discussion on India-Pakistan relations is complete without understanding China's role. Andrew Small argues that the China-Pakistan partnership has evolved into one of Asia's most enduring strategic alliances. Projects such as China-Pakistan Economic Corridor are not merely infrastructure initiatives. They represent geopolitical investments that reshape regional power equations. For India, this creates the challenge of a potential two-front security scenario, compelling New Delhi to allocate resources simultaneously towards its western and northern borders. Consequently, India's strategic focus has expanded beyond South Asia towards the broader Indo-Pacific, strengthening partnerships through initiatives like Quad, I2U2, and IMEC Corridor. The realist scholar like Hans Markenko argue that states primarily pursue power and security, since both countries perceive each other as existential threats. Rivalry becomes inevitable. Kenneth Walls emphasized that the international system itself encourages competition because no higher authority guarantees security. Alexander Wendt reminds us anarchy is what states make of it. If identities change, relationship can change too. This raises a very important question. Can India and Pakistan ever redefine each other beyond historical hostility? Perhaps. But history suggests that political narratives, domestic pressures, military establishments, and repeated crises continue to reinforce mutual disrespect. Former diplomat Shiv Shankar Menon argues that effective foreign policy is ultimately about managing contradictions rather than eliminating them. C. Raja Mohan advocates strategic patience, suggesting that India should prioritize long-term economic growth, technological advancement, and maritime power while maintaining credible deterrence on its western frontier. Meanwhile, Happy Jacob emphasized the importance of crisis management mechanisms, military communication, and confidence building measures to prevent accidental escalation. The future of India Pakistan relations is therefore unlikely to resemble either complete reconciliation or perpetual war. Instead, it may continue as a carefully managed old peace, which is characterized by deterrence, limited engagement, and strategic competition. Ultimately, India Pakistan relations are no longer defined solely by Kashmir or conventional warfare. They are shaped by nuclear deterrence, terrorism, water, great power competition, technological transformations, domestic politics, and the evolving balance of power in Asia. As the strategic landscape shifts from South Asia to Indo Pacific, India's primary challenge increasingly lies in balancing continental security with its aspiration as a leading global power. The future will not depend merely on military strength, it will depend on strategic wisdom, diplomatic resilience, institutional maturity, and the ability of both the nations to prevent crisis from becoming catastrophes. And why so? Because in our nuclearized neighborhood, the greatest victory is not defeating the adversary. It is ensuring that conflict never crosses the threshold from competition to catastrophe. In the end, I would like to put forward a question for you all, which is, do you believe India and Pakistan are destined for permanent rivalry, or is there still a space for strategic coexistence?